Chapter 32. Crunch time. Yes, Sam, it all checks out. We will see you and your men tomorrow. Karnak hung up the phone in the communications room at Bellamy's Hole. Karnak thought about how much he had missed being able to communicate without sending a runner with the information. Now he had one last call to make. Holding the phone up and hitting the connecting extension, Karnak listened to the rings right before the RTO on the other end answered. Camp Carlos, Buck speaking. A little surprised to hear Buck's voice, he began. Hey, Buck, this is Commander Karnak. Can you have Sergeant Smith give me a call ASAP? No need, Commander, he is right here, Buck replied almost before he had finished with his request. Sergeant Smith here. Smith, you in there tying up the phone lines trying to book a date for the prom? Karnak joked. Well, Commander, a guy has to have his priorities in line. Smith and Karnak enjoyed harassing each other, but it was time for business. How many can we expect from the Carlos? Karnak had requested a head count of volunteers for the battle soon to take place in St. Louis. 3,631, Commander. Almost all volunteered, but that is all who are able to fight at this time, Smith informed Karnak, with a noticeable disgust in his voice at the thought of how the men had been treated. The number was much higher than Karnak had anticipated, knowing the conditions the men had been held in. Great. Start transporting them here. I want everyone loaded up by 1800 tomorrow. Roger? Roger, Commander. Karnak out. Signing off and hanging the phone up, he began going over the plan on the map in front of him once more to ensure he had thought of every advantage. Planning attacks such as those to take the tunnels or the camp were child's play compared to the one laid out before him now. On the desk lay a map of Missouri, the place where he and his soldiers would fight World War III. Even though he had planned it from top to bottom, he searched for any way to improve its chances of success. Repeatedly, he visualized just how the battle would unfold from beginning to end, each time feeling that something was missing. Right before starting the entire process once again, there was a knocking at the door. Enter! Through the door stepped Robert with one of his men. Upon seeing him, a spark flickered in Karnak's mind. Commander! That was all Robert was able to say before Karnak raised his hand to stop him from continuing. Looking down at the map with the attack plan drawn out, he picked up the piece that represented Robert's unit and set it in the middle of the Mississippi River. I need you and your men here, Karnak said, as he tapped on the night chess piece he used to visualize different groups on the map. Seeing that Karnak was pointing to the far side of occupied St. Louis, Robert remarked, We're going to need something other than the cargo barges. The troops are going to move down the river in. What do you want if we can get there? My men are good, but taking on an entire army with the 15 I currently have is simply suicide. Sabotage and guerrilla warfare. Break up in teams of 2 and raise hell all along the banks of the river. Do whatever you can to pull troops your way, and then get the hell out of the area. From the intelligence Angelique brought back, it's hard for even them to move with the devastation, so trap them there while our forces move in from the west. Robert looked at the map, and then to the man standing next to him. After pointing and discussing the possibilities for several minutes, Robert said, We can do that, but only if we can find something big and fast enough to get us in and out of the area. It must be bigger than the fishing boats Marks has gathered to push the barges. Karnak ran through the inventory of equipment they had up until now. Nothing he could think of would be useful, but he knew whom to ask. Grabbing his rifle, he asked Robert on the way out of the room, What did you need? Having come to ask about their part in the mission, Robert replied, You already answered it. Good. Then follow me, Karnak replied. Karnak led the 2 men over to the old Willie Jeep. Marks's men had been able to get running with little effort from the museum. For months they had worked day and night bringing equipment back to life that had been deemed no longer useful. Well, now they were about to find out what else he had created or salvaged. As Karnak drove along, he thought of how the city was beginning to pull together since food and other necessities were being rationed at many different centers. After dealing with people attempting to steal food or sell it at a very high cost, Karnak had kitchens set up all over the city, removing most of the criminal temptations. Even with people killing each other less often for food and water, Karnak knew it would be more than a decade before the country ever resembled the image it once was. Pulling into the armory, Karnak drove straight for the repair shops where Mark spent most of his life now. With the old brakes of the Jeep squealing as they stopped out front of the open doors, Karnak called out, "Colonel Mark's in there?" "Yes, Commander," one of the mechanics yelled back. Happy with the quick answer, he looked over to the passenger side. "Well, Robert, let's see what is on the showroom floor," Karnak joked, exiting the Jeep. As soon as Mark spotted Karnak, he reacted. "Damn it, Karnak. I'm not going to try and convince you again how the little 15 horsepower and 25 horsepower John boat motors are going to maneuver the barges in the river." "Just trust me when I say they can," Colonel Marks stressed, believing that discussion was why Karnak was here now. "No, that isn't it. I do need to know if you have anything bigger, not for the barges, but to move 15 men down this river and into the Mississippi," Karnak added so as not to hear the speech about water currents and the motors only being needed to steer. A big smile came across Marks's face. "I have just what you need. Follow me." He started walking and led them through the shop and out the back door to the supply and storage yard. Once through the rear door, he continued, "Was wanting to take her out myself, but I'm guessing you will be able to handle her." Marks pointed over to the large craft on a trailer. Soon as they laid eyes upon the craft, they became speechless as they stared, unable to describe how perfect it was for what they needed. "Where the hell did you get that?" Robert asked, running over to get a closer look. Marks answered, "She's a beauty, right? Vietnam-era swift boat, aluminum hull, but don't let that fool you. She can take a beating. Need power? She has it with twin General Motors Detroit Marine diesel engines pushing 480 horsepower. Robert was almost ecstatic but decided to play along, since Mark sounded like he was trying to sell it to him like a used car dealer. "I don't know. How's the mileage?" Mark smiled. "Oh, she'll get you to Louis and back with one fill-up, no problem. And just for shits and giggles, I'll throw in 2 barrels of fuel." Jumping down from the rear of the trailer, Robert remarked, "Throw in an 80mm mortar and 2 machine guns, and you got yourself a deal, mister." Karnak enjoyed the show even though he didn't display it. "So where the hell did you get a swift boat? It looks like it still belongs to the U.S. Navy." "Marina repair shop when we were looking for batteries, parts, motors, and tools. I'm guessing somebody was having it restored, and from the looks of it, they were close to being complete. You've got to see those engines, truly impressive," Mark said, almost drooling. "Robert, get your men and put it in the water. Be ready to move out by 2000 tomorrow," Karnak ordered, now satisfied that the plan had all the parts needed for success, and come 2000 hours tomorrow, the offensive would begin.